you just be born left-handed. I mean, that's really the trick. Hey, this is Robert Monroe, and I had this question posited to me in a comment on one of my shorts recently about hands. And I had made a funny short about your right hand being super good and then your left hand being garbage. Very common, stereotypical piano stuff. But someone legitimately asked, how do I overcome this? How do I get my left hand better? Well, the answer's simple. You just be born left-handed. I mean, that's really the trick. You just need to go back, get your genetics rewired. No, I'm just kidding. It does help. I am left-handed and it definitely had its advantages. But in reality, there are a few practical things that you can do right now to make sure that you do not become so imbalanced. Before I get into those 3 practical ideas of how you could get better with your left hand, I do want to talk about why it's actually important. I think a lot of people don't think that left hand development or growth is really that important because most people play piano in this kind of what is termed in jazz trumpet style, which is your right hand is very acrobatic all over the place and your left hand is just playing chords. That's a great way to play. People get a lot of mileage out of it, but it's by all means not the only way that you can play the piano. It's a ton of fun to mix it up. One of the things I personally enjoy a lot is actually having a 2 keyboard setup so my left hand can even solo while my right hand is playing chords. You don't have to go that far before your left hand really having some dexterity is helpful. For example, anything involving bass playing, your left hand being able to take a more lead role while your right hand plays chords is super helpful. Now that I've gotten you on board, let's talk about 3 ways that you can make your left hand super good, just as good as your right. Let's start with the obvious one. Do everything your right hand does in your left hand. My guess is you got to this point where your left hand can barely play, 1/8 notes at a reasonable speed because of this one thing. You did not do your scales and your exercises and your licks with your left hand as well as your right. At some point, you were doing an exercise and the fingering got a little weird and you were like, I know my teacher said, or I know I made this promise to myself that I'd keep playing my left hand. Nah, it's a waste of time. It's slowing me down. I'm gonna leave that left hand behind, focus on my right hand, that's where the goods are. That was your fatal mistake. That's where you went wrong. So we gotta redo all of that training. Here's the good news, it's not gonna take long. Your left hand is just as good as your right. It just needs some help. It needs some practice. The fingering is going to be weird. So you're going to have to spend some time working on fingering specifically for your left hand. But there is an end in sight. You will get it. It will straighten out. But just keep your ears. If you ever hear the hands break apart, if it ever feels like 2 different people playing, you got to stop and you got to focus in and fix that right away. That gets me to the second thing that we can do, and that is actually left hand alone. Now, this is, again, probably really obvious that we could do this. Well, here's the thing about left hand alone, though. It really needs to be for a certain purpose. You don't just need to just be playing left hand alone for any particular reason. You should be doing left hand alone because you're really trying to catch it up with the right hand. So I would recommend all those exercises that you've been doing with your right hand, try them with just your left hand. Even easy stuff that you feel like, oh, my left hand's already got this down. Nah, try it in your left hand by itself. I think you'll be surprised at some of the blind spots that have formed because you've been so focused on your right hand. The final thing is actually etudes or technical studies specifically designed for your left hand. Probably the most famous is the Revolutionary Etude by Chopin, but there are a ton of them. Anything that has an active left hand could be considered a left hand etude or technical study. Why would you want to do this on top of the other things? Well, when we really want to achieve something noble, amazing, powerful in music, I would recommend not just settling for standard. You want to go above. Why? Because when you actually go back and you play your gigs and you're doing your different things and you find, oh, I want to play this lead over in my left hand, but I'm going to do this other thing in my right hand. To perform that well, you need to have it above and beyond what someone would expect. Well, what does this all mean? It means that you've been slacking. I mean, to be honest, we've all been slacking. There's all a point in our playing where we take a shortcut. It's the human thing to do, but then we need to owe it to ourselves to reverse that shortcut and fix the problem and sort it out. I want to see people soloing with their left hands, comping with their right hand, kind of Joe Zawinul style, just crushing it. So let me know if any of these helped you at all, if this made sense to you, if you want a video on another topic like this or something completely else, you disagree with me, just let me all know in the comments. And until next time, peace.